Hello and thank you for clicking on my channel. Welcome to the Real Movie Podcast, and today I want to talk about Dolittle. The movie Dolittle came out in 2020. I know you might say why I'm talking about that movie now, but you know, I had free time. I always have some free time on my hand, so I watched the movie. I thought this movie does not deserve all this hate that is going towards it, and I decided to make a podcast about it. So here's my podcast. So the star of this movie is Robert Downey Jr. And when someone says Robert Downey Jr. from 2008 up until today, we only hear Tony Stark / Iron Man. This movie was RDJ's first movie after the MCU. And to be honest, it is not the perfect introduction. If I'm just being mild, it's actually pretty bad if you look at how well did Robert Downey Jr. in the MCU. But this movie was that blockbuster, that next move of Robert Downey Jr. that was a misfire. And it seemed like Robert Downey Jr. trying to do something different other than being Tony Stark is really visible in this movie. He is not talkative in this movie. He talks to animals. He has a weird accent. They say it's Welsh accent, but it doesn't look like that he's talking Welsh. And even the timeline and the technology is old. I mean, when I was watching this movie, I was like, okay, RDJ just made sure that none of this character has Tony Stark in it. And I give him props, to be honest, because I did not see Tony Stark in that movie, but I saw a bad film from RDJ. So what happens in this movie? Well, Dolittle is a doctor, is an animal doctor as it seems. His wife dies in an adventure that she goes on, and it is never mentioned how and why she died. It's just a small mentions. And Dolittle is depressed. He is in his house. It is a pretty nice house because he did so many good things for the country that the Queen of England gave him a nice big house. It's literally a castle. So when Queen is poisoned and sick and she is about to die, they ask Dr. Dolittle to find a cure, and he goes on an adventure to find the cure of this disease. And what we see in this movie is that adventure. What I found interesting in this movie was that when I started watching this movie, I was like, okay, I'm going to see a bad movie, because this movie has 5.6 on IMDb and 15% on Rotten Tomatoes and 26% on Metacritic. I mean, I was like, okay, this movie cannot be good in any level. But the audience seemed to have liked it, because this movie, although the movie did not make as much as MCU movies, but it did well. It made 251 million. It was fine, but now the problem is this movie had 175 million budget, which is extremely over the top. That is what happened with this movie. This movie should not have presented itself as something big and serious. This was a kids movie, and when you watch it from a kid's perspective, all the fart jokes, all the animals talking, everything, every single stuff will be a lot more enjoyable, because this movie does not have a plot. I mean, it is a story that people have heard countless of times. You should not make a movie like this serious and spend so much money to make this. I don't know what were they thinking. Maybe they wanted a movie franchise, but I think Robert Downey Jr. did not want to be in a franchise, in another franchise, because I think he's a bit sick and tired of them. The movie does have some charm. When I'm talking about this movie in a positive way, by no means I mean this was a good movie. This movie sucked. This movie was really bad. It is one of the worst movies ever. But if you look at this movie from a kid's perspective, you will have so much fun. For example, I want to give you an example. For example, do you remember the movie The Cat in the Hat with Mike Myers? That movie is what a kid's movie should look like. It is not something that an adult can enjoy because it sucks. The story sucks, the action is bad, everything is bad in that movie. But there are some fun elements for children, including the fart jokes that children find really funny. But the smart thing that movie did, and this one didn't, was the budget that were spent on this movie. So I think a lot of hate that this movie got, because the critics, they were angry that they are about to watch a 175 million blockbuster movie and they went on and see this. So this movie is bad, but it's not as bad as people say it is. Thank you for listening to my voice. I try to keep it short, but again, it is like 4 or 5 minutes. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah, that's it. As always, thanks. Bye.